I'm finally leaving Porto. I'm walking past the monument Boa Vista. It's a monument to the Napoleonic Wars, the War of Independence, I think. Today is one of the longest days for me. It's going to be about 17 miles, which was the average last year for the Camino del Norte and the Camino Primitivo. I left the albergue around 8 a.m., which is not early, but not too late. I wasn't the last one to leave the albergue. And I'm gonna cut towards the river so that I get to see a little bit of the river on my way out of Porto. I'll walk along the river until I get to the sea, and then just follow the coast towards the north. More later. Someone that looked kind of sketchy, I wanted to stay away from him, but he came over and he said, "Excuse me, do you speak English?" And I replied, "I don't." And he left and I kept going my way. I finally made it to the river, and as I was walking, it took about 20 minutes. As I was walking along the shortcut, I could recognize every building, and I was thinking, I know I have not come this way here in Lisbon and Porto. How is it that I can recognize everything? And then I remembered that when I was still in Boston, I was exploring a way out of the city, and I traveled the shortcut on Google Maps Street View. So I could recognize everything, but I had not actually walked it. I'm in Matosinhos, about halfway to Vila, where I'm going today. Not much has happened in terms of views. It's some beaches and lots of fog now, so not very exciting. More later. Along the beach, the fog has lifted a little bit. The only interesting part is this wooden walkway, which makes it a little interesting and sort of distracts you from all of that industrial stuff. More later. Obelisco da Memoria, which commemorates where troops disembarked to put an end to the rule of King Miguel I of Braganza. So a little bit of history on Portugal. Porto used to be called Cale by the original Celtic peoples that lived here. When the Romans occupied the Iberian Peninsula, they called it Porto Cale, the port of Cale. And that, people believe, is the origin of the name Portugal. When the Suevi, which were barbarian tribes that overran the Roman Empire, came, they were calling it already Portugal. The north of Portugal was called by that name. My phone is falling down. So, yeah, that's the origin. The north of Portugal was where the name comes from. Cale, the original Celtic name, is very similar to Gaul and to Wales. In Spanish and Portuguese, Wales is called Gales. So Portugalis, some people believe, is the name that means the port of the Gauls. And so yeah, there, more history. One thing I forgot to say is that the Camino Português starts in Lisbon, and there's only one alternative. There's only one Camino from Lisbon to Porto. But starting in Porto, there are three alternatives. One is the Camino Central, which goes inland and which is the traditional one from the Middle Ages. Second one is called the Camino da Costa, goes short inland but touches the coast at several points, not as far inland as the Camino Central. And then the Camino da Senda Litoral, which is the one I'm following, which is sort of the Camino da Costa but going by the seashore the whole time. So that's the fisherman town of Algeciras. Finally, the coast is starting to get a little more interesting. Castro de Sampaio. A castro in Spain and Portugal is a hill fort from the Stone Age. It has this really pretty setting. The walk from Porto to Vila was mostly on pavement, which is not nice. And at the beginning it wasn't that sunny, but the last 2 hours were under a blazing sun. So I'm sure that in those two aspects, the Camino Central is a better choice. The views weren't that great either, but it is what it is. One thing I want to mention about Porto is the transportation system is so good, so efficient, so modern. When I went to Fatima, I switched from the metro to the bus station, and to go from one to the other, it's like going through an airport. It has moving walkways, escalators, and both of those slow down to a crawl when nobody's on them. But when they detect that somebody's on them, then they get up to normal speed. Okay, so that was the end for my first day from Porto to Vila. Buen camino.